guys for being here. What a great turnout, and we're just excited to partner with everybody. So, good deal. All right, Calli, I feel like you should do a little more of an intro on what you do, because we have been talking about Yellowstone beef when we've been advertising this, but you do a whole lot more than Yellowstone beef. So can you just give us an overview of what you do?
Yes, and now that I know what we were just doing going around the room, I didn't know if we were like kicking off or what. I think a big challenge, by the way, which, and you could probably guess what I would say, and some of you I know I could help with this, it's the mindset. I mean, you can learn the skills of running business and you can try and solve decisions, but if you don't have the right mindset, I mean, your business will not thrive, and it's going to be hard and it's not going to be enjoyable. So that's my thought on that. So speaking of, yes, we farm and ranch north of Watford City. I'm on my home place, so I always say it's the place that my grandma and grandpa built. They were actually gifted it by his grandpa. So my great-grandpa bought the place, passed it on to my grandpa as a wedding gift, or so we're told. And then they built a place, raised my family there, including my dad, and then he got the place, and that's where I was raised. And now we are growing my kids, technically the 5th generation, right on that land. And so we have, depending on the year and the markets and what's going on in the world, we often have a cow-calf operation, a backgrounding feedlot. I think CJ told me this morning we're at 991 animals in the feedlot with more to come.
More, Calli,
what?
You can't eat more before you're out of compliance.
So we had that conversation.
Yeah, don't have it. Just don't have
Okay, well, we'll talk, because I asked that question, and that was a whole conversation, if we're not a year-round. So that's my question. So then we're good. So we will be above that number. So we also run some yearlings sometimes. We don't always finish cattle, but we'll finish some because they'll go up to the beef plant in Williston. I also do a lot of work with the John Maxwell team. I'm a certified team member there, so I've done some training for some of you guys. Do a lot of keynote speaking, traveling with that. Also coaching, one-on-one coaching, individuals or groups, masterminds, trainings, a variety of things under that hat, plus mental health first aid, which many of you have been part of that. Kind of like first aid CPR, but mental health first aid, which some of you have probably heard my soapbox on that. I can guarantee you will use mental health first aid more than you will use first aid CPR. So it's a phenomenal class. We have one coming up. I see Billy. No, is that Billy? That's not Billy. I thought Billy with Northern States just walked in. You kind of look like Billy, sir. I was going to tell them thank you. Billy, Northern States Fishing Tools is hosting our next mental health first aid training, and it's sold out. It's at max capacity, which is pretty awesome. So those are a few of the things I have going.
I love that. All right. So you kind of talked a little bit about it there, but I'm just going to kick off with, when did you first dream of owning your own business?
Yeah, so I think this is kind of a fun fact. When I always tell people I went to NDSU, I have a degree in animal science, which I really try to point out to them when I'm doing mental health first aid training, because I'm like, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, I don't have that degree, I don't do any of that. I have a degree in animal science, came home, worked for 5 years for NDSU Extension, and then after that, I have been an entrepreneur ever since. And so my initial goal, I wanted to travel the country. I wanted to go work for a national organization somewhere, probably within the beef industry. That was my idea. CJ, though, my husband, many of you know, he saw that there was an oil boom happening out west here, and so he came to my hometown. So I kind of had to follow him, but came home, that's what we did, and I think the idea of being an entrepreneur or running businesses, maybe I didn't realize it, but it was always in the back of my head because that's how I was raised. My dad had, fun fact for those of you guys, the old feed store in town, which is now, it's like a washer and dryer appliance place. GE Appliance, down by Anytime Fitness. That used to be my dad's. Originally, if you go look at the cement in there, it says Wold Feed and Seed in there. So he had a bobcat business. My mom always did things. I mean, I guess that's when you're raised farming and ranching. It's just kind of in you, and you maybe don't always realize, oh, we're entrepreneurs, we run businesses. So I laugh when I think about Yellowstone, though, specifically. That was never in my book. That was not a dream. That's probably not a lot of people's dreams to own a butcher shop, but people maybe don't know we ran a lot of cattle through Yellowstone River Beef, especially when COVID hit. We sold some beef here and there to people, family, people in the community. I mean, a little bit here and there. But then when COVID hit and all the stars aligned where things backed up, feedlots were backed up, packing houses were getting shut down, grocery stores had no food on their shelves. And I remember, and some of you have probably heard this story, CJ one night, and this is the middle of COVID, you know, the kids are all home, I'm trying to remember logins to school and all the things. And my work at that time, I was just crossing it off on the calendar, like speaking engagements, there was nothing, events, everything was getting crossed off. And CJ looked at me one night, we were sitting just like this, scrolling on our phones, and it was the end of March, and he said, I think we need to sell beef. And I just looked at him, and I was like, yeah, okay. I literally didn't respond to him because I was like, I don't need one more thing on my plate, even though my plate is now getting empty. And so long story short, within a couple of weeks, we had all the requirements, the permits, certificates, licenses to legally sell beef. And so that's what kind of started it. We worked with over 200 families that year. We processed over 150 animals, and much of which were up in Williston because that was the closest USDA federally inspected beef plant. So we could cross state lines. That means we could do whatever we wanted with that beef. And long story short, the prior owners were from Oregon. A lot of people don't know that. And they came to us, let me do my math, the fall of 2023 then, right? Yep. And asked if we were interested in buying. And I still remember we laughed. Like CJ told me, he's like, oh, by the way, Trevor called today wondering if we wanted to buy the beef plant. And I just like, I mean, maybe some of you have been in that position where it's like, yeah, real funny. But I guess we'll look into it. Just like anything, I guess that's our mindset. Well, but I guess we'll look into it. Conversation started. I will tell you there was an event. I think I was at a EDC meeting and my brain was already kind of going like, wait, I actually asked who owns the Wold Feed and Seed now? And somebody was like, oh, I think Luke Taylor owns that. Because I was already thinking, how could we get it in Watford? Like, how could we get beef here in town? And so then I talked with Luke. I said, hey, I hear you own that building. And I think he was in the process of selling it at that time. But then I was kind of like, Luke's kind of businessman. He knows things and he's connected and we live a mile from each other. So I said, Luke, what do you think about owning a beef plant? Well, he likes cooking. His brothers like cooking, doing all that stuff. And so we had conversations, and I guess that's how things kind of just start. So that's what's interesting about Yellowstone. There was never really we want to chase down or build or buy a beef plant. It kind of fell into our lap and took a lot of work. We ended up buying it officially in the end of May of 2024 is when we took ownership. So just over a year and a half we've owned it.
Wow. So tell me what your biggest struggle, biggest challenge has been so far.
What do you think it is? Because it's probably the question I get asked the most. Is blank your biggest struggle? What do you think people think it is?
People.
Workforce is what I thought.
People. Yeah. That's what people always ask me is how do you have employees? What's your staff? And this is maybe where my mindset, my thought comes into play, because I can tell you CJ, my husband, that would be his first answer. Oh, it's the people, it's the employees. I remember when we bought the place, our partners, Luke and Courtney Taylor, Luke one time said to us, he said, you will love and wish for the day when you can just go sit in the field and not have to be around people again. And I remember him saying that. And so CJ would definitely say probably employees. And I wouldn't, but maybe that's the people side of me is I like helping people. I like the challenges. I like walking them through that stuff. So, I told CJ the other day, right, I gave him another thought. I said, we've never had that place empty. Like people show up to work. Yeah, I mean, and we have people, I think that's like, you build that though, that culture, that want to be there. And I'm also very honest. Does everybody want to come work at a butcher shop? No. Most of you would not want to come do the work that we do day in and day out, the physical, demanding job that it is. And it's just, I mean, you know what we can do. You can figure out what our job is every day. But there's so much good with it, I think. And we have a pretty phenomenal crew, I think. And they're still humans. Do you guys ever have life happen? and things go on and challenges, I mean, they do too and stuff, and we just handle it. So I think they've probably learned a lot of that from me. It's like, okay, that's the circumstance. One of my other employees the other day, she was pretty mad about, I think it was the DOT, she had to run it, or DMV, she had to run in and do something with her license, and she came back not happy. I said, okay, and what do we want to think about it? I said, you can let this wreck your entire day and be sucky and be mad back there when you're cutting and then helping employees, or it is what it is. You can't control how they treated you. I mean, I went off on my whole training that I do with people, and she just kind of sat there. She's like, no, you're right. Like, hey, let's go have a good day. That's on you to have a good day and stuff. So just things that we look at. The biggest struggle, I think, if you're not in this business, you don't have to know these things, but it's ironic that I like to say sometimes cattle prices are our biggest struggle. When we bought this place, CJ said cattle prices have to come down. Like, they'll come down because they were at record highs when we bought the place a year and a half ago. And what have cattle prices done since? Continue to go up, which is awesome for this ranch north of here, about 30 minutes, right? Phenomenal. Finally seeing prices that many would say we deserve and that are catching up to what we pay for our costs of feed and machinery and everything that goes into just producing an animal. But I can also tell you it's killing us at the beef plant. You know what, this is what people don't know is 4 or 5 years ago, if I'd owned that beef plant, I could buy that fat butcher steer for maybe $1,500. Now I'm buying it for $3,500, $4,000. Wow. So when people, right, this is the business side, when people see that beef price has gone up a little bit, then they think we're making bank.
Right.
I mean, that's just people's mindset, right? Is like, oh, you must be making a lot of money. And one of my employees said that one day too, I'll never forget. A ton of boxes went out the door and the customer left and my employee goes, ka-ching, ka-ching. And I looked at him, I'm like, okay, we need to have a sit-down conversation if that's what you think just happened, right? And I said, you guys have to know and understand that just because $20,000 of beef went out the door that day, it might have cost me $20,500 to make it happen. I had somebody drop cattle one day. All of our cattle are either local from our ranch or we get from a couple other sources, and that's it, because we know what we're looking for. We want that consistency in our product. And the guy who dropped the cattle from Pruitt's, he was looking at my price sheet. Again, he just dropped 4 or 5 head for us there for our retail counter. And he was looking at my price sheet and he goes, holy cow. And I looked at him and I grabbed the receipt that he had just given me for those cattle that he dropped. I'm like, this is why my prices have to be this, so that we can attempt to break even. You know, and sometimes I tell people that real story of what the reality is in business right now. And it's not a woe is me, it's what the markets are. And we joke that, man, if we can survive right now, the last year and a half that we have, then, I mean, we can only go up maybe from here.
I love it. All right, so then tell us what you're most proud of. What is the highlight of having your business and what you've done with it?
Mm-hmm. I think that we're still going. We haven't given up, but you can't really just give up on a place like that. I spoke to Vision West a couple weeks ago and we were talking about Yellowstone River Beef, and somebody on that call said, hey, there's a beef plant for sale in Hazen, jokingly, and I was like, yeah, they can come buy mine if I mean, I know why that place is for sale, like, I get it. But I think it's how much we've grown. I kid, but I am not kidding. Businesses and challenges and hardships like this will either make couples better, or I can guarantee you people, like, if they were in CJ and I's shoes and what we've dealt with and just the hard that comes with it, would not be together anymore. And I can tell you it's grown us a lot in a lot of good ways and things we've had to work through and stuff. So I think the fact that we're just still doing it, but I think we're also proud. The prior owners were doing a lot of global exports. That was their focus. So sometimes when we would call to get cattle in with them and they would say, no, and we would fight back and forth a bit. It's like, you have to let us get in there. We have brought you and made you a lot of money, and we're trying to provide this to our local consumers and stuff. So I think we've done a complete 180 on what we're trying to do business-wise, and we want ranchers to be able to bring us their cattle so we can process for them, which that is completely flipped. When we got the books, there was nothing there for custom processing. You call most places and they're booked out months, if not years. We had nothing on the books. So we had to build that back up from the ground. And so we offer that, but also I think the big push is we're trying to let people in the area know what we have to offer. Local beef, and we've worked really hard at that, and I think the word is getting out there, they're saying, so that's a good thing.
Good. What advice would you have for someone who wants to become an entrepreneur?
Don't do it. No. I'm kidding. Actually, that makes me think, I often tell this story when I'm speaking. I will never forget, my dad one time told me that his parents asked him, "Are you sure you want to come back home to the farm and ranch?" Because they knew the struggles that came with it. I will never forget when I came home from college, I was standing in the front yard in the house that I now live in, and my mom asked me, "Are you sure you want to come back here?" Because it's hard, like they know. And so I think about it right now, like, man, if my kids were, man, we want to start a business and we want to do this, would I hesitate for a minute? Like, holy, maybe just go work somewhere and work an 8 to 5 and have some free hours, you know? But I also know how much growth comes from being an entrepreneur. And I think that's kind of full circle back to what I said at the beginning is you have to be in the right mindset and you have to be willing to grow. It doesn't mean you start in the right mindset, but you have to be willing to grow as an entrepreneur because there are so many challenges, even just mentally. The hardships that you face, the things that come up, the things people say to you. Ariel, when you said that about being on social media, I just spoke in Bismarck recently. They have a group called the Bismarck Boss Babes. There's probably 40, 50 women entrepreneurs there. And one of them said her struggle right now is she doesn't want to post on social media because she is so afraid of what somebody could say, that it's holding her back. And that's it is. Unfortunately, that's the real sad part about social media is you can have 500 people say good things or give it a thumbs up or whatever, but then you have that one person that has a negative thing and man, it can eat at you. In fact, we have, some of you maybe heard the story, you probably didn't, hopefully, because we tried to keep it under wraps. When we bought this place, there was a gal who was not happy. She had an issue with the prior owners, and she came after us. And it was bad. It was ugly. I can tell you I have not felt that attacked ever in my life. And I have no idea who she was. She had no idea who I was, but she was blasting stuff all over social media. So I think that's what's hard. But I think you just have to have that bigger picture of why are we doing this? Why do we want to achieve? What does success mean to us? It's definitely not numbers. It can't be a lot of the time. And so you have to know why you're doing the things you are and if it matters. And if not, you got to figure out what that is. I talk about it all the time. It's so easy in today's world to look at like what I should be doing or what we should say yes or no to. But I find a lot of people don't answer that question for themselves, and that makes it hard for them.
Yeah. Good. One last question. This is going to be, Vanita's going to hit on resources that are available in this area, but can you tell us what resources that you used when starting your business? By resources, I'm talking about SBDC or local funding, those types of things.
We were really fortunate, and I'm going to draw a blank right now, that we were able to get, it was through the rural electrical companies. They actually happened to have a loan program that was available for local meat processors. So when we needed a loan to purchase Yellowstone, we went through them because, like I said, it was specifically for meat processing plants. And so we did our loan through them, and man, we spent a lot of hours with Keith running through numbers. Pretty fortunate because Keith has helped with that plant as it's changed ownership the last few times and stuff. So he knew and had a lot of those numbers, and we were able to run through them with the North Dakota Business Center and stuff. Obviously up in Williston, like they mentioned, we were able to use the STAR Fund, which helped with some grants, matches and stuff like that. We also had the opportunity recently to receive an APUC grant, which will help with marketing, market research and stuff like that. So we're diving into that right now. But yeah, a lot of opportunities locally, which is good. But I think I keep going back to too, and I have to say it is just word of mouth, like kind humans. that want to spread the word on what we're doing and what we have. In fact, when a lot of that was going down, when this lady was really beating us against the wall and we had nothing to do with her and stuff, I had a gal come in one day and brand new. I mean, we were probably a couple weeks into buying this place, and she looks at me and she says, "Are you Calli?" And I'm like, do I say yes or no? Right. I was like, yeah, I am. She's like, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" And I'm like, "Yep, you can." And we go outside on the deck, and she says to me, she's like, "I've seen what so-and-so is putting all over Facebook." I mean, it's a local person up in Western North Dakota. She said, "I've seen everything that's being put out there and stuff. And we specifically came to you guys because we know you guys." She said, "We don't know you super well, but we've seen what you're trying to do and create here. And so we're selling burgers, I think, at the Williston Fair is what they were doing." And she said, "We want to buy our burgers from you, and we want you to give us a sign that says these burgers are from Yellowstone River Beef." And I mean, I was about in tears because it does. When people attack you, when one person attacks you, it can feel like the whole world is. And so I think it's just huge thank you to everybody who has supported and shared. And when you're a small business owner, it means more to you than anybody else can imagine, right? Just tagging that Yellowstone River Beef, or taking a picture and tagging it, or telling somebody about it. Because we have so many people every week that stop in that are brand new, didn't know we existed out there, because we're trying to let them know, hey, we're out here. If you want 100% local, we're the only place you can get it. We are the only place, no matter what somebody told me one time they walked into another local butcher and they informed them they were selling Yellowstone River Beef there. I'm like, excuse me? So know your sources, know where you're going, know your people, and we're pretty excited to be able to do that though.
Very cool.